So, hello everyone and greetings. Nice to meet again. This is our series on the yoga of the mind. And we had first session 2 weeks ago talking about what is the yoga of the mind. And we had an amazing experience with Atam Prakash from India. And today we are having Judy Johnson from Halifax, who's going to be with me for the next 45 minutes. Judy is the coordinator of the Brahma Kumaris Meditation Center in Halifax, but she does many other things. And you can tell us a little bit about it later, Judy. But the concept is that for the next 3 weeks, we're going to explore different aspects connected to the yoga of the mind. And we describe the yoga of the mind as being really the ability to connect the mind with something that has purpose, meaning, and that will uplift the mind versus connecting the mind with something that actually will drain the mind or make us lose our mind. That happens to us so very often. So to stop losing our minds and hope to find our minds in good shape and in good health, I thought Judy will be the perfect candidate. And the topic I want to talk to you about, Judy, is that to me, many people complain about one thing. They cannot concentrate. And whenever they try to meditate, they cannot concentrate, and it's hard, and the mind goes in all the different directions. And I thought to really take 3 different topics for the next 2 weeks and today. And the first one is about motivation, which to me is kind of a driving force in making me do something. If I'm motivated, I'll do it. If I'm not doing it. So before we go into that, I wanted to give a chance to everyone who's listening and who will be listening over the next 300 years, this beautiful video. Who are you? I know you work in many different incognito, very subtle behind the scene aspects. I know you do a lot for the Brahma Kumaris, that I know. You travel around the world. You help many people in different centers to be more organized, do their things better. You give a lot of talks. You coordinate a beautiful center in Halifax. Professionally, your background is in management problem, is it?
Om Shanti. Thank you, Eric. Nice to see you. Technically, it would be called an organizational development consultant. So
that's what I say.
That's exactly it. Management problems. Yeah.
But you said it in a more beautiful way.
More beautiful way. Really about engaging people in making their organization better. So I'm not doing business strategy unless you consider business strategy to be people. And actually it kind of technically is. Your best business strategy is how your people are engaged and contributing. So yeah, that's what I work in, which actually is very much about motivation. If you think about it, how do you get people engaged, involved, committed, giving their best? So doing the same for our minds, I suppose it's a natural kind of topic for me. I hadn't thought about it until just now.
Right. But you also meditate like me. We've been meditators for decades. And you've been exploring, of course, the quality of the yoga of your mind. And you've been, like me, trying as much as we can to keep the mind focused in beautiful, meaningful sources of energy. And I was sharing last time that, it's like we start the day with a potential of $50,000 in our head. Like if each thought is worth $1, it's like you have $50,000 in your head, and you have to invest it and make it profitable. So what's your approach to, first of all, the yoga of the mind? How have you been discovering the importance of, channeling your mind in a very specific direction? And how have you been approaching that science or that practice or that spiritual discipline in your life?
I think when I hear the word concentrate, it makes me scared. It makes me go, oh. But the other day I heard a definition that I really liked, and it was about centering my consciousness. And that was concentration, just centering my consciousness. And I thought, that's actually what happens when I sit to meditate, is my energy is going in all the directions of my thoughts. And all I'm doing is I'm just centering it and bringing it to a point. So then the question is, how long can I hold that? And for me, that's where the motivation comes in, because in a way, my mind is full of multiple motives. Let's say there's the motive to get up and eat, the motive to go over there and, go for a walk, the motive to be peaceful, the motive to be having a lovely conversation with Eric. I have so many motives there. It's like they're all floating around in my mind. And so which one takes priority in any given moment? It's almost like shuffling through kind of a sea, like in a busy shopping center, and you just kind of make your way to the area you want to be. And so you kind of get past a bunch of things that draw your attention. Well, I don't actually need that lovely shirt. And these shoes I have already. But, I make my way to I actually need an iron, or I need whatever. And so it's a little bit like that in my mind, I find, is that it's almost like I can see the different motives. And then I remember the purest motivation, purest motive, and I activate that one. And that's motivation, like it's an activation of my most pure motive. And for me, that is to be peaceful, to come back to myself and just be me quietly in an undistressed, unagitated state. Just me, that quiet, wise being that I am. So the mind's sometimes a bit like a big shopping center, and lots of motives there, lots of things that attract just in the form of thoughts, but finding that aisle, that lane, that motive that actually matters most to me, which is really my intention when I sit to meditate. And even if I sit with an intention to be peaceful or still, or to center my consciousness, concentrate, I might still get distracted by all the great things in the shop. So that's okay. I just come back to that motive. And I think that's at the root of motivation, is what is my real motive for doing this?
We are doing this, we're having this conversation because it's International Yoga Day, the day of yoga, internationally celebrated. And so for a few weeks, we are approaching the concept of yoga not being a physical posture, but a mental posture. And telling our mind, okay, mind, let's have a yoga class now. Let's try to practice yoga. So when you meditate, what do you want to have yoga with, or who do you want to have yoga with? And how do you connect that goal or objective with a motivation?
I live in a part of Canada where we have the headquarters of the International Buddhists, and I practice Buddhist meditation first before coming to Raj Yoga meditation. And the aim was to empty the mind. And I failed every time, which is why I ended up here, because we could fill our minds, and I really love that.
Okay, to fill up your mind here, yeah.
It's okay to fill up your mind, fill it up with good stuff and feel the good energy from that. So I guess what I learned in the Buddhists is that my mind is moving around everywhere and I have to chase after it and bring it back. And what I learned in Raj Yoga is that the mind is actually like the screening room for the soul. And the thoughts are racing around and projecting onto my mind. So it made my mind a much, it was like I didn't have to control it anymore. It felt like more I could make choices about what I showed on the screening room of the soul. And so I think your question was around how do I approach that? Was it? I mean,
yeah, what do you focus your mind on? Let's say if I tell you, okay, yoga of the mind, you have to have only good thoughts about yourself. Or you have to concentrate on the supreme, which we do also in meditation, or you have to focus your mind on being peaceful and quiet. So at that moment, or whatever you choose to meditate on or to focus your mind on, how do you connect that with your motivation? Let's say you decide that, okay, every morning I will meditate, and tomorrow morning you go and sit and meditate. But actually you're not really motivated. So what happens?
Yeah, you fall asleep, or you just think about your to-do list, you're not really meditating. Yeah. I did find when I was meditating with the other that I didn't have much motivation to do it because I found it really boring to just watch my thoughts and empty my mind because I was always failing. So when Raj Yoga meditation came along, I discovered, oh, I'm actually going to focus on this tiny point of light behind my head. I'm not trying to be peaceful. I'm not trying to fill my mind with peace. I'm actually setting myself, my consciousness, in this posture of a dot. And to me, that was the hatha yoga of the mind, was instead of some beautiful sun salutation, and, I was actually just doing a dot. And that was my yoga posture, was a dot. And then from that, with the understanding of that's the soul, is profoundly deep and beautiful energy and still and serene and eternal and amplitude, what's the word, bigger than the physical, all that. Somehow all of that made peace come as a byproduct, as a result, rather than sitting and trying to be peaceful. Every now and then I still sit and try to be peaceful and it never works. But when I come back to just being a point of energy, then peace comes naturally.
So what do you do when it doesn't work?
Oh, many things. Sometimes I get up and walk away. Well, I think it's a question of gentle, loving discipline. If it's really a stressed time or my mind is going too many directions, I just sit quietly and allow my mind to do it. I allow the thoughts to go where they do. Sometimes I will think through what seems to be troubling me, because obviously something's distressing me. And so I'll look at it and think, what is this about? And then I'll get some insight and then I can be quiet again. But usually I just come back to being a soul.
Yeah, which is a very, needed practice for us to go away from the distraction of our physical world, our senses, everything. But when I'm curious to know what really then motivates you. How did you shape your motivation over the years in meditating after so many years and continuing to meditate? So how do you keep yourself motivated?
Well, there have been patches where I feel less enthusiastic, but generally speaking, I think I'm always discovering something new about myself, and I find that very motivating. Even when I get a little stuck and I'm just seeing the same old, or I'm routinized a little bit, or I'm going through the motions rather than, a sincere motivation to be there. Even when that happens, it doesn't last for long because I really want it to be true and honest and sincere and real. So I think I just keep having insights into myself and learning more about myself. And I find that really motivating, even when there are blocks, even just to see, oh, look at me, I'm doing my discipline thing again, when really I should be doing my heart thing. Let's just go with love this time instead of discipline. And then it changes the whole game. So these are very subtle things to discover about the self, but there's always something new and it's very interesting.
Yeah, I find, there are different flavor of motivation. There's sometimes motivation based on fear. So sometimes motivation can be based on desires, like you want more money, you want more fame or glory, you want to be recognized. So there's desires that can trigger a certain type of motivation. Sometimes there's a kind of motivation that comes from being attracted to someone. You love someone or you're attracted to the person. So you're very motivated in suddenly walking by where that person works, for example. So instead of walking, a long time just and hoping the person will show up at some point. So I find there's different flavor for motivation. And when comes the time to say in Raj Yoga, our interest is to change, to say the world would change when individuals transform themselves. So if I'm a better, more peaceful person, I can really bring peace in the world. If I'm messed up and confused and angry and everything, well, that's what I contribute to the world. So now we want to change. And I know the church, for example, or religion very often have tried to make us change on the basis of threats, and if you don't do that, then you will have to be punished or you'll suffer. If you don't do that, then God will not be happy with you. Something bad will happen to you. So these are all different flavors for motivation. So I'm wondering, what do you think is a good type of motivation to have for us as Raj Yogi to really change effectively our pattern of behavior or thinking or attitude? What should motivate us?
Yeah, I think it's true, Eric. There's so many, and I feel like I have experienced all those motivations you just described. I don't want.
That's why I'm sharing that.
Yeah, I don't want to be a bad person. I don't want to fail. The fear of failure. I don't feel so much God will punish me. Somehow I don't have that motivation, but I do want to be closer to God. And I feel that the way to do that is to sit quietly like that and make the effort. So I want that very, very much. So I think the motivation for me that's the most sustainable is honest self-discovery. Like I really honestly want to discover the best of me, buried under whatever else is there. I really want to do that. And I really want to be close to God, and I want to be as useful to God as I can be. And I mean, that's just such a sincere wish that every time I come back to that, I'm fine. But I drift from that and I get into other motivations, mostly going through the motions. And I think that's a kind of could be a devotional practice too, where you just do something again and again, because it becomes ritualistic rather than meaningful. And it's easy to get a bit superficial sometimes and forget that sincere motivation. So I think whenever I'm checking that my motivation is sincere, that's honest self-discovery, honestly wanting to be close to God, then that motivation carries me to a very lovely meditation experience.
So what are you discovering?
Well, then I'm a nicer person than I ever thought I was. Nice. Yeah. Like just simple things that I have much more beauty in me than I had ever seen before, that I couldn't even dare to say that about myself before. I would be too guarded and protected to say that about myself. And I can say that honestly now and feel like it's true. That's huge for a person.
Yeah, that's huge. It is big.
That's layers and layers of junk out of the way to be able to say that.
We had a lovely meeting with one of our administrative head of the organization, Sister Jayanti in Toronto, and she was referring to something that people say sometime, that we have been given a commandment in the scriptures. In English, thou shalt love your neighbor as you love yourself. Mm-hmm. And she was asking the question, so why don't we love our neighbors more?
Because we don't love ourselves. We don't love ourselves.
So the question was very interesting, that if I have love for myself, then I will be able to love others. So we discover things for ourselves that sometimes are really fascinating, to realize how little I may appreciate myself as I really am. Yeah. Others appreciate me more than I appreciate myself. So when we discover that, I guess this is a big, it motivates us to go a step further, a step further, a step further. Yeah. So then the question is, sorry, go ahead. You would say.
Well, I was just thinking, and even while trying to love your neighbor, even while trying to be a really good person and give to the world and love your neighbor, it falls flat. It's not sincere unless there is love for the self there. Yeah. So that's a wonderful observation. Great question.
Yeah. So what, the question then we'll ask is, why do we lose motivation? Why is it that everybody who takes, for example, a project or a program for losing weight or for meditation, where we feel, okay, we're going to change, I'm going to transform myself, we embark on all these kind of programs. We say, okay, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to the gym, and then we lose motivation. And I think in meditation, many lose motivation. After a while, they think, how long am I going to do that? And they want to meditate, but after a few years, then we can get flat a little bit. So what do you think why are we losing motivation?
I can speak for myself, and what I've seen here is, for me, whenever a should creeps in, there's weight. So I start with I want to, I choose to, and there's enthusiasm in that. There's motivation inherent in those words, choosing, wanting, but very, very gradually it turns into, oh, I should meditate today. I should go to the gym. I should. And what we're really saying is, I no longer want to, but I know it's good for me. I should. And so I think that's, again, coming back to the honest motivation. Well, I've said to myself, well, don't do it then if you don't want to. And somehow, when I have that conversation with myself, I end up choosing to go meditate every time. There's something about the honesty in that little moment of, I really don't want to go do this. And I stop, and it's like, oh no, but I actually really do. Like, there's something about just being able to say to myself honestly that I don't want to, that cracks through the I should. Because the I shoulds are very suppressive. They never allow you to say honestly what you're feeling. Because I should be going to the gym. I should be meditating. But instead, when I say, well, I don't really want to, and then suddenly I find the motivation again. I think the honesty releases motivation. And I mean, I still have to be creative. I have to take charge a bit of my own life and my own practice and say, okay, how will I make it interesting today? What will I sit and think about today? Or what conversation do I want to have with God today when I sit in my meditation? Or, what is it that the soul is feeling right now? And even just opening with that kind of question means it's a self-care experience rather than a thou must experience.
Mm. Yeah, and then you keep talking about honesty, having an honest look at the self and this. What do you think that there is, a danger of doing it not honestly, or not fully maybe, or not with enough sincerity? Why do we use that word honestly?
I don't know. Pretty. I can say for others who come to me and tell me their things, they'll often feel bad about it. And I'll often say, well, that's okay. Just be honest with yourself. You have been. That's great. And they always feel so relieved that they didn't have to pretend that they were good at it or that they were really enthusiastic. So for some reason, it feels to me that that's an obstacle to a genuine experience, to be pretending that you're good at it or to be telling yourself you should. So I guess for me, it's a really big key to having an authentic or sincere or genuine experience in meditation is the amount of honesty I'm having with my motivation, my motive, and and with myself. Why am I doing this? What do I really want from this experience?
It's interesting because it means that somehow there are certain factors that will eventually alter our capacity to see ourselves as we really are, or to see things that we should see. And that's why maybe you're using that word honestly, means having the courage to go through certain kind of reactions we may have, or attitudes where we don't want maybe to go deeper into our own selves, because your motivation is about discovering yourself honestly. So which means having the courage to face what you're going to find and what you're going to discover.
Yeah. And I only have that courage because I really want the world to be a better place. And I know it's not going to happen unless, we rid ourselves individually of those very same macro, microcosm dynamics that exist in the world around us here. I can't be changing that if I've got it still in me. So yes, I do have the courage to face that. And I'm willing to, and I think it's part of the journey. But the question you were asking me is, why don't we? And what makes it hard? And so I guess for me, it has to do with honestly knowing why I'm doing this and coming back to that again and again. It's like a pure aim. And
Honestly knowing, you see.
honestly knowing. So it gives me the energy to keep
Uh,
going, really. I mean, it's not such an easy journey. Not everybody wants to look at themselves. Not everybody wants it. Like in the Buddhist tradition, we had to sit and just be still with all the thoughts in our mind. And it drove me crazy. I'm really happy I can get up and move around and still be in a soul conscious state. You know, that the yoga of my mind, I can carry with me as I do things. I don't always have to be sitting still. I'm very happy that this posture of mind can be portable. That for me is much more practical and functional. If I just had to sit all the time, I might go a little bit crazy, because I do like to move. But yeah, I think that genuinely just getting through the junk that covers up the inherent beauty of each of us is not for the faint of heart. It does require a certain stamina and a certain courage and a certain determination and a great, great love for the journey and the outcome. And it's really my love for God that keeps me going, you know, and it's feeling God's love for me in my mind, you know, in lighting my mind, warming my heart, making me feel like not that it's worth it, that in this moment, there could be nothing more precious than what I'm experiencing right now. And then suddenly that shopping mall isn't even present in my mind. It's just me and that
shops
light.
are closed.
Yeah, shops are closed. I'm not interested.
To go around. But you touched on that. I was searching for a way to come back naturally, and you did it. So thank you for coming back to this topic of posture of the mind and yoga of the mind. So we looked at the motivation, the quality of the motivation, what really drives you, basically. Now, in the practice of the yoga of the mind, one thing is the motivation, but then the other thing is the achievement, which is also maybe connected to the motivation. If you are motivated, but to work, but you're not earning money, I don't know how long you'll be motivated. So in a way, not that there are expectations necessarily, but there is a gain. There's something we gain through the yoga of the mind when it's well done, and when we do have the motivation and we do it right. So for you, what did you find were these achievements of paying attention to the postures of your mind, not just letting the thoughts go by and trying to be quiet, as you mentioned, but where did you see the gain of your mental yoga?
This might be connected to the, us saying we want to diet or lose weight, and then we go to the gym for 3 weeks and then we stop question. There's something about pacing and stamina over time. So I don't always walk away from a meditation experience feeling, wow, that was amazing. It's very often a much quieter, just that was, and on I go. But I can see how day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, just doing that, I have so much faith in the process. I think that just doing that adds up to shifts. So we just had a series of visitors here. It was an intense period. There was a lot going on. I might normally have certain thoughts. I might get a little agitated. I might even feel a little stressed. I went through the whole thing and people said, wow, what a great example. You're just being so generous, like to every moment, and I didn't resist anything. It all happened, and at the end of it, I could see how different I was during that period. And so for me, the fruit is there. The fruit is in the practical living and how I show up differently in my life, in the situations in my life that matter to me. And it's not always the experience, the fruit of the meditation itself. It's the accumulated total of all of that energy that I seem to be taking in through the meditation that transforms the way, that gives me, it's almost like it gives you a buffer or a reservoir of energy that you bring to a situation and you respond differently. And it's only after you realize, well, yeah, that was effortless. Oh, yeah, that was fine. That was lovely. And it's usually other people who notice it, or maybe you'll get a comment and then I'll realize, yeah, you're right. That might have bothered me before. It didn't this time. And you see how you're changing over time. So for me, that's huge fruit, but it's not fruit that I eat every day.
Mm.
It's more fruit that is, it's like I'm canning and storing things, you know, in the fall when we put things in the cold room and then we bring them out in the winter. So in those moments where you really need a nice rhubarb or applesauce because
That's
there
when
are
you
none,
pull it out.
and you pull it out and there it was, and like that.
Sometimes I find that, you know, the yoga of the mind is also a way to channel energy.
Mm.
And we find that if we scatter the mind in so many directions, then we don't realize we're wasting energy.
Mm.
But we realize it when we're, you know, just empty afterwards. And so what's your experience when you focus the yoga of your mind, you know, properly, and you have a good yoga? And you said, you know, you can succeed easily. You feel, you know, things are happening as if nothing is happening. How do you connect that with energy, you know, connecting with the energy of the mind? And what is that energy?
Mm. Well, I know, Eric, that you're one of the most busy people I know. And I know that probably every moment of your day is spoken for, that there is
Today it
something.
is.
Yeah, I know that about you. And my life is like that. And I realized the other day that when I started meditating, it was like I had little bits of my day that were dedicated to meditation related things. And now pretty much all of my day is dedicated outside of my work hours, which are fewer because I'm a contract person. I have a lot of, my attention is spent on meditation thing. And what I've noticed is it was like little dots in my mind. And now they're all adding up to like a certain color in my mind. But so my whole mind is now full of this kind of energy related to the meditation world that I live in and teach in and practice in and share in with you and others. And I realize that every minute I'm paying attention to something that matters. So there's not much sloppiness in my mind anymore. And that sloppy energy takes us down into less than beautiful behaviors. I haven't got time for that anymore. And so you can say, I don't have time, or you can say, because I'm paying attention on a moment-to-moment basis, I'm purposefully occupied on a moment-to-moment basis with something that's meaningful for me, something that's lovely. I don't have room for sloppy energy in my mind anymore. And I'll sometimes laugh and say, God's keeping me busy because he's keeping me out of trouble. And isn't that great? I'm really glad that I'm as occupied as I am. But I think that's one of the secrets of energy in the mind, is that it's either going to be an uplifting energy, an energy that's meaningful for you, or there'll be sloppiness there. It doesn't mean stay busy all the time, but the practice of setting your mind in a posture and bringing it back again and again and again adds up to your mind is quite alert and attentive then on a regular basis. And then it's easy. You're not wasting energy so much.
So talking about meditating, how about we invite you, or I invite you to share a few thoughts for 10 minutes during a meditation commentary. I'll play a beautiful visual of a point of light, which is something we like to use, like you have behind you also on the screen here, or I have behind me somewhere here. We like that little point as a reminder of the energy of the soul, the star-like, you know, living energy. God may be also appearing in that form in our meditation as well as a being of light. So how about we share a few moments with you, and then you can share a few thoughts. So I'll play that video, and then after 10 minutes, we'll reappear on the screen. So be prepared, those who meditate and watch us. Will show up again after the light. So it's okay for the next 10 minutes. I'll let you go.
So for those of you joining us, I'd invite you just to settle yourself in your chair so that you're comfortable. If you're lying down, I'd encourage you to just lift your head a little bit so that you're upright, but supported. You know, I always like to start meditation by just checking in with my body. I'm often not aware of how much I'm holding my breath or breathing very superficially. So I find it really beneficial just to start with a couple of deep breaths. You might want to do that with me. Just breathing in and releasing very, very gently. Allow your shoulders to drop, your neck to relax. Another deep breath in. Hold it and release very slowly. Feel your stomach cave in. Again, your shoulders dropping. And one last time, just breathe in peace this time. Hold your breath and then release it very slowly. Breathe in and breathe out. Naturally, at your own rhythm. You find that your breath is going slower now and deeper. So your body is being nourished by the oxygen it needs. This couple of moments of breathing is actually reclaiming your mastery, your right over your body. Its needs, its feelings, its pains move us all day. And in this moment, I'm just giving it a chance to relax, but I'm also reclaiming my right, my mastery over the body. I am the one who cares for the body. So with the intention to relax the body and fill it with oxygen, I settle into this space of quiet and peace. And for the next few moments, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes so nothing from the outside world distracts you, unless you'd like to keep your eyes concentrated on that tiny point of light. The same thing, allow everything else to fall away and just concentrate on that beautiful image of light in front of you. And while you're doing this, I'm going to ask you to see if you can hear your own heart beat. Now visualize an invisible thread of light from your heart to your forehead, and behind the eyes, where the soul resides. Ask you to visualize a tiny, sparkling star of light, like this image in front of you. And draw your breath energy and all of your thought energy into this tiny point of light. As you concentrate on the point of light behind your eyes, sits in the center of your mind. peaceful and still, irradiant, luminous, extending energy outwards to the body and to the world. Every quality I have ever wanted is inherent in this point. The quality of peace emanates from the point. The energy of love bubbles up from this point of energy and out to the world around me. The quiet contentment of a satisfied heart is also the energy inside the point. Sweetness, kindness, courage, determination, every quality I need for living is here, inside of me. So simple, yet so powerful. The realization of self. I feel above me now a warm light, like the sun above my head. And I feel a white light enter into my mind, caressing love and peace and light. This energy from the divine, from God, meets me, the soul, in a loving embrace of light. Ageless and eternal, this divine bond links me, the soul, with the supreme soul, the father, the mother of every soul. And I soak in these vibrations of light, of love, of peace, power. This moment becomes my whole world. My energy expands, beyond the physical. I fill with pure energy. I have a sense of abundance and joy. Om Shanti.
Oh, thank you. No need to go anywhere by the beaches and the ocean, anywhere. Just stay with you 10 minutes and here we are. We went to a beautiful state. Thank you, Judy. It's really lovely, really nice to hear from you and to be with you. So I hope everyone is motivated a little bit more to continue on their journey or to renew that journey. And so we'll continue. We'll have another few sessions for the next 2 weeks. And so Yoga of the Mind will continue. We'll be here again next week and the following week with different topics. And we can see each other through social media as well. If you want to find more about the Brahma Kumaris, who we are, what we do, where we are, all that is on the social media platforms. Thank you again, Judy. And let's say à la prochaine. See you next time. Namaste.
Thank you, Eric. Eric, thank you so much. Namaste, and thank you to everyone who's been watching.
That's lovely. So thank you. Om Shanti.